Via Dolorosa by Victor Yup and Doris Mock. Chapter 14. Servant Leaders. Luke chapter 22, verses 24 to 27. A friend told me an interesting but sad conflict in the church. Several years ago, an elderly man was counting the church offering by himself, which is not a wise thing to do under any circumstance. When the church changed its policy to protect everyone involved, including the men and the church, by having two people counting the offering, the man felt slighted and was displeased. He took the treasurer by surprise one day by asking, "What degree do you have?" The sister innocently replied, without thinking too much about it, "Master's degree in management." The man's seething and stewing deep down caught most people unaware, but it came to a boiling point and a public showdown sometime later, unfortunately at a church member's wedding. When the man was led to his wedding banquet table, discovered he was seated at the same table with the treasurer, he remarked to the treasurer, "You think you are very smart. I too have a master's degree in accounting." After that, he directed his venom at her husband. "What do you mean by never greeting me but staring at me these many years you see me at church?" When the man was led to another table to prevent an incident, he discovered there were more people he disliked at the other table and returned to his original table. When the food arrived, his wife took a bite but was scolded by the husband. "Why do you still have the face and stomach to eat with these people?" With that, he marched off and left the banquet, with his long-suffering wife hurriedly chasing behind. The church is a hotbed for conflicts, some of which are downright ugly. Many years ago, disgruntled members of a megachurch sent out anonymous documents of its denomination and its findings in a church mediation dispute, leaving the pastor with a tarnished reputation. Most conflicts are for the worst, though some can have a good outcome. For example, a megachurch had a disastrous fallout about 10 years ago. The mass exodus of the young families, young adults, and the young people resulted in a 500-strong church today, and the old church marched on without missing a beat. The Chinese say, "If the house has peace, all things flourish. If the house is wrecked, the mouth won't stop talking." This passage is the second conflict among the disciples spilled into the open, interestingly enough, all coming after Jesus' disclosure about heading to Jerusalem. The first instance was the Zebedees' brazen request to monopolize Jesus' sides, Matthew 20:20-21. Jesus had announced his betrayal and had served the Last Supper. Now, everyone wanted a piece of the pie in Jesus' kingdom, not wanting to lose out to James and John. They wanted to be the rulers, to inherit the riches, and to reap the rewards, but Jesus had other ideas. What are the things that create strife? Why do conflicts rear their ugly head? How should believers motivate themselves in the wake of divisions, disagreements, and differences in personality and background? First, be committed to ignoring competition. Verse 24, also a dispute arose among them as to which of them was considered to be greatest. A certain brother who lived solitary was disturbed in his mind and making his way to the abbot. He told him he was troubled. The old man said to him, "Go, humble thy spirit and submit thyself and live with other men." So he went away to the mountain and dwelt with others. And afterwards he came back to the old man and said to him, "Nor in living with other men have I found peace." And the old man said, "If thou canst not be at peace in solitude, nor yet with men, why didst thou will to be a monk? Was it not that thou shouldst have tribulation? Tell me now, how many years hast thou been in this habit? And the brother said, 8. And the old man said, Believe me, I have been in this habit 70 years, and not for one day could I find peace. And thou wouldst have peace in 8? Church growth is overstated. Uniting the church is already an accomplishment and a success. Disagreements are inevitable, but divisions should be avoided. The Greek word for dispute makes its only occurrence in the Bible. It is not that hard to break down the word to know what it means. Philoneikia is from two Greek words, philos and nekos. Philos means friend, from Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, and nikos, from Nike, the sneakers, means victory, conquest, or triumph. So the dispute is over who has the victory and is the overcomer, who prevails in comparison and competition, who is better and one up. Sadly, as in the case with the disciples, it is done among friends, brothers, and associates, not with rivals, neighbors, or strangers. The clash was over who was the greatest, from the Greek word meizon, or megas, that occurs 44 times in the Bible. No chapter in the Bible repeats more times the word than this chapter, 3 times in 5 short verses of the passage, verses 24, 26, and 27. You say, that's not me. I am not that vain. I am no Muhammad Ali. I never strive to be the greatest or call myself the greatest. To their objection and dismay, the Greek for greatest is also translated as greater. Matthew 23:17, 19, Mark 12:31, Luke 7:28, 22:27, John 1:50, 4:12, 5:20, 8:53, 10:29, 13:16, 14:28, 15:13, 15:20, 19:11, 1 Corinthians 14:5, Hebrews 6:13, 16, 9:11, 11:26, 1 John 3:20, 4:4, and 5:9, 25 of its 44 times, or more than half of its NIV translations. Just as readers think that they can heave a sigh of relief or breathe easy that the passage is not talking about them, the word, unfortunately, can also be translated as more. James 3:1, 4:6, 2 Peter 2:11, largest, Matthew 1:33-32, Mark 4:32, bigger, Luke 12:18, weightier, John 5:26, and older, John 19:12. It is nothing more than a comparative word that ends up translating as greater for 2 persons and greatest for 3 or more. People are so shallow. The interesting thing is that the dispute ultimately was not over who is actually the greatest, but who is considered the greatest. The word consider is thinking, dokeo, or docetism. The conflict was over who was the greatest in their mind, narrow as it is, in their estimate, wildest, and in their opinion, or biased, not their true worth, what was merited, their proven value. By the way, real worth and class acts need no comparison. Second, be careful of intoxicating control. Luke 22:24-26. Jesus said to them, "The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves." A Chinese story told of a man who had a neighbor who has a malicious brute and a terrible bully. He wanted to sell his house to get away from the fella, but his neighbors said his sins will come to a head and he will get what he deserves. Why not wait a little while? I'm afraid, he replied, that his sins will come to a head on me. Here are some interesting quotes about being on top. The Greeks say, those whom the gods want to destroy, they first made mad with power. Always train like you're number 2. If you train like you're number 1, you have no place to go. Jamaican, Haitian, and French proverb: the higher the monkey climbs, the more you will see of his behind. The Chinese say, the bigger the tree, the more inviting the winds. If you compare yourself with others, you may become bitter or vain, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. The kings of the nations, ethnos, and the powers of the world have a different mindset from Christ. The Greek verb lord it over, kurio, occurs 7 times in the Bible. Besides lord it over or be the Lord, verse 25, Romans 14:9, 2 Corinthians 1:24, and 1 Timothy 6:15, NIV's other translations include mastery, Romans 6:9, or be your master, Romans 6:14, and has authority, Romans 7:1. In today's terms, they boss people around, not only throw their weight around, but throw you under the bus if they have to. A friend working in the shoe industry said his Fortune 500 company once received a fax from Nike in bold: "We'll crush you." The Greek word kurio is taken from kurios, or supremacy. The Lord is not interested in mere superiority, but supremacy. He is not about difference to him, but dominance over you. He demands sole leadership, not sharing power. He wants to be the alpha dog, the 600-pound gorilla, the last one standing, and the one with the last word. After they have done what they do, in their arrogance, they will call themselves benefactors or euergetes, or literally good workers, or ergon, of good or ill. They think they do it for the other's good or benefit, for the better or greater good. There is only one thing these people like than being adored, being afraid of. They want rule, not respect. They are not about making a difference, but making a demand. They desire power, not pride. They care not about being acclaimed, but being appeased. An imperative is found in verse 26. Therefore, the translation is must be like the youngest and not should be. Being the youngest is not as scary after all. Like the word greatest previously, the youngest, or neos from new, verse 26, merely means newer, neos, or younger, not extreme or absolute youngest. The word can also be translated as new or young. This time, Jesus did not talk about being a child, but being young at heart and having the learning attitude of a rookie, a junior, a subordinate, a freshman, an assistant. Of course, most people prefer to fold their hands. At the table is the traditional word for reclining, Matthew 26:7, 20, Mark 14:18, John 12:2, and 13:23. It is rarely translated as guests, Matthew 22:10 and 11, eating, Mark 16:14, and sitting, John 6:11. This refers to people waiting to be served, standing around doing nothing and not lifting a finger, doing one's part or making a contribution. Note that Jesus did not say you are permanently younger, but practically become or like the youngest and like the one who serves. Like, verses 26 and 27, does not mean same, but similar. Not change, but comparable. Not becoming, but being. Third, be content with imitating Christ. Luke 22:24-27. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? But I am among you as one who serves. Once there was a man who liked his job, but whose family clamored for more and more money. The man resisted them for a long time, but finally gave in and found a job that paid more, but that he liked less. He worked long and hard. He changed jobs frequently and badgered his employers for higher salaries. Soon, his children enjoyed the best of everything. Yet, they still made him miserable with their clamor, and the father saw that they were no happier than they had been before. Outraged, he stripped every child of its belongings. He took back the clothes and the cars. He fired the maid and the cook. He made sure they had enough to eat, but spent nothing on delectables, saying, "If you can't be happy eating beans, you won't be happy eating steak." The word Jesus opted for in this passage and for himself is never slave, doulos, but servant, diakonos. A diakonos is an attendant or a waiter at a table or in other menial duties. A slave is in bondage and has no choice, but a servant is a volunteer and serves of his own will. Just as Jesus was not forced to come to earth, but gave his life in love. Matthew 20:28 and Mark 10:45. The word diakonos occurs 37 times in the Bible, and about half of them are for the popular translation is serve, and the other translations include attend. Matthew 4:11, Mark 1:13, angels came and attended Jesus. Wait on a person or a waiter. Matthew 8:15, Mark 1:31, and Luke 4:39, Peter's mother-in-law who was healed waited on Jesus. Luke 12:37, servants who wait on a master reclining at a table. Acts 6:2 and 1 Timothy 3:10, the 7 deacons chosen by the early church to wait on tables and early church leaders. Care for a person's needs. Matthew 27:55, Mark 15:41, the women who cared for Jesus' needs in Jerusalem. Help. Matthew 25:44, helping those who are hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison. Acts 19:22, 2 Timothy 1:18, Philemon 13, Timothy, Onesiphorus, and Onesimus help to Paul. Hebrews 6:10, help in general. Support. Luke 8:3, the ladies who support the disciples and Jesus out of their own means. Work. Luke 10:40, doing the housework, ministry, and administer. 2 Corinthians 3:3, 8:19, and 20. Paul's description of his work. The clearest sign of a person's spiritual growth and maturity is what he or she put into the church community and not take out of the church. Not what they receive, but what they give. Not whether you lead, but that you serve. There are 2 phases in Jesus' fellowship with the disciples: be with me and be like me. The first one is the beginning, but the second one is the breakthrough. The solution to unity is not to be more like each other, but to be more like Christ. Conclusion. It's been said, the purpose of religion is not to get you into heaven, but to get heaven into you. Great minds need not think alike. but they must think of Christ and think like Christ. The church needs a fair dose of honesty and honor, but large doses of humility and harmony. Are you properly motivated by Christ's ministry, his meekness, and mission? Are you more Christ-like and less worldly? Do people see Jesus in you? Is your testimony clouded by comparison, competition, and control? May others see Christ, his character, and conduct in you. Lent questions. Personal attitude in serving. First, for all work in the church, ask the Lord to teach me to serve him in life. Second, not to serve with an attitude of toiling, but to rejoice in your work. Third, when we have no patience and are easily bored, the question is whether our purpose in serving is for God. Fourth, when we are easily tired, when we have problems in our relationship with the Lord, it is impossible to quickly recover our spiritual strength, leaving us to doubt what we have done. May we be willing to be great in the Lord, to be humble, and to serve others, not like the world that desires the service from others. Ask the Lord to change our wrong thinking and work hard to learn to serve others.